Bron Breakker just betrayed Paul Heyman on Monday Night Raw, and the wrestling world is in complete shock. The alliance is over, and chaos has erupted. What is going on, Suplex Rumble family? Welcome back to the channel where we bring you the hottest takes, the most shocking moments, and the breakdowns that help you understand why wrestling is the greatest form of sports entertainment on the planet. If this is your first time here, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because we're covering all the jaw-dropping moments as they happen. Today, we need to talk about something that left the entire WWE universe absolutely stunned. Monday Night Raw just delivered one of the most unexpected, most explosive, and most talked about moments of the year. Bron Breakker, the second-generation superstar, the powerhouse who's been tearing through the competition, just turned his back on Paul Heyman, the legendary advocate, the mastermind, the wise man himself. This wasn't just a disagreement. This wasn't just a heated argument. This was a full-on betrayal that has massive implications for the entire WWE landscape. Let's break down exactly what happened, why it matters, and what this means for the future of both Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman. Before we dive into the chaos of Monday Night Raw, we need to understand the foundation of this relationship and why this betrayal hits so hard. Paul Heyman aligning with Bron Breakker was genius when it first happened. Think about it. Paul Heyman has an unmatched track record of taking talented superstars and elevating them to legendary status. His greatest client conquered The Undertaker's streak and dominated WWE for years. His advocate work has created main event stars and championship reigns. When Heyman started showing interest in Bron Breakker, the wrestling world took notice. Bron Breakker is wrestling royalty. The son of Rick Steiner, the nephew of Scott Steiner, Bron has the pedigree, the genetics, and the raw talent to become one of the biggest stars in WWE history. At just 26 years old, this man is a former collegiate football player turned wrestling phenom with the intensity of his family and the athletic ability that's off the charts. When Paul Heyman first approached Bron, it made perfect sense. Heyman saw the potential. He saw a young lion who needed guidance to reach the absolute peak of the industry. And Bron? He saw an opportunity to learn from one of the greatest minds in wrestling history. Their partnership produced results. Bron's promos became sharper, more focused, more impactful. His matches had even more psychology and storytelling. His presence felt bigger, more important, more main event. Championship opportunities started coming his way. The WWE Universe started seeing Bron as a future face of the company. Heyman would stand ringside during Bron's matches, offering strategic advice. He'd cut promos hyping up his new client, using his legendary mic skills to build Bron's credibility. They seemed like the perfect pairing, the young powerhouse and the veteran mastermind. But over the past few weeks, something started to shift. Subtle moments that the most observant fans caught: Bron looking frustrated when Heyman would interject during his promos. Disagreements about match strategy that seemed minor at first. Bron making decisions in the ring that went against Heyman's advice. The body language between them becoming more tense with each passing week. It was like watching a slow-burn storyline where you knew something was building, but you couldn't quite predict when or how it would explode. Well, Monday Night Raw gave us that explosion, and it was nuclear. Let me set the scene for you. Monday Night Raw was already delivering an incredible show, but nobody was prepared for what was about to unfold. Paul Heyman was scheduled to address the WWE Universe about Bron Breakker's upcoming championship aspirations. Standard stuff, right? Heyman comes out, cuts a brilliant promo, builds up his client, and sets the stage for future storylines. Heyman walked to the ring with that signature confidence. Microphone in hand. Dressed in his usual suit. The wise man ready to advocate for his powerhouse client. He started his promo talking about greatness, about legacy, about how he's made a career out of identifying once-in-a-generation talent. The crowd was engaged, hanging on every word, because that's what Paul Heyman does. He captivates audiences. Then Heyman called out Bron Breakker to join him in the ring. Bron's music hit, and he walked out with an intensity we've seen before, but something felt different. His facial expression wasn't just focused, it was cold. His body language wasn't just confident, it was aggressive. He entered the ring and stood across from Heyman. No handshake. No acknowledgement. Just a stare that could cut through steel. The crowd started buzzing because they could feel that something was off. Heyman, being the master manipulator and smooth talker that he is, tried to ease the tension. He started talking about their partnership, about the success they've achieved together, about the championships that await them. But Bron wasn't having any of it. He grabbed a microphone, and what he said next sent shockwaves through the arena. Bron called out Heyman for treating him like a pawn instead of a partner. He accused the wise man of trying to control his career, of taking credit for his hard work, of using him the same way he's used others throughout his career. The crowd was stunned. This was real emotion. This was real frustration. This was a young star standing up and declaring his independence. Now, Paul Heyman is a veteran of these situations. He's talked his way out of confrontations with the most dangerous superstars in WWE history. He tried to use his legendary silver tongue to smooth things over. Heyman attempted to explain that everything he's done was for Bron's benefit. He reminded Bron of the opportunities he'd created, the doors he'd opened, the success they'd achieved together. But Bron Breakker wasn't listening to reason anymore. This is where things went from tense to explosive. Bron stepped closer to Heyman. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. You could hear a pin drop in that arena because everyone knew something massive was about to happen. And then, Bron shoved Paul Heyman. The wise man stumbled backward, shock written all over his face. This wasn't part of any script Heyman had imagined. This was a complete and total rejection of their partnership. But Bron wasn't finished. As Heyman tried to regain his composure and plead with his former client, Bron delivered his message loud and clear. He told Heyman that he doesn't need an advocate. He doesn't need a wise man. He doesn't need anyone to speak for him or guide his career. Bron Breakker declared that from this moment forward, he walks alone. He makes his own decisions. He creates his own legacy. And if anyone including Paul Heyman gets in his way, they'll face the full wrath of the second-generation powerhouse. Bron's music hit, and he left the ring, leaving Paul Heyman standing there in absolute shock. The camera captured Heyman's face perfectly, a mixture of disbelief, anger, and perhaps even hurt. The crowd was going crazy. Chants erupted throughout the arena. Social media immediately exploded with reactions. Wrestling fans around the world were processing what they just witnessed. This wasn't just a storyline beat. This felt real. This felt raw, pun intended. This felt like a genuine fracture in a relationship, and it was compelling television. Okay, Suplex Rumble family, let's talk about why this moment is so significant for WWE and for both of these incredible performers. This is Bron's declaration of independence. This is him stepping out of the shadow of everyone, his legendary family, Paul Heyman's guidance, and anyone else who might try to claim credit for his success. In wrestling, there comes a moment when a rising star needs to stand on their own. They need to prove they don't need the veteran manager or the legendary advocate to succeed. This is Bron's moment. Think about the greatest superstars in WWE history. At some point, they all had to step out and declare, "I am my own person." This is Bron's version of that career-defining moment. What this does for his character: it makes him more relatable to fans who appreciate independence and self-determination. It adds an edge to his persona that might have been softened by the Heyman partnership. It creates natural storyline opportunities for the next several months. It positions him as a rebel, someone who refuses to play by anyone else's rules. Now, let's talk about what this means for the wise man. Paul Heyman's greatest strength has always been his ability to identify and elevate talent. But what happens when that talent rejects him? What happens when someone he believed in turns their back on him? This creates a fascinating character moment for Heyman. Does he seek revenge against Bron for this public humiliation? Does he try to find a new client to prove he's still relevant? Does this betrayal make him more dangerous as he tries to protect his legacy? Could we see a more ruthless, more vindictive version of Paul Heyman? The storytelling possibilities are endless. For the wrestling historians in the audience, this moment calls back to some legendary manager-wrestler splits. Bobby Heenan and various clients throughout his career. Jimmy Hart's relationships with different superstars. Even Heyman's own history with clients who eventually went their own way. But what makes this different is the public nature of it. Bron didn't just quietly part ways, he made a statement. He embarrassed Paul Heyman in front of the world, and in wrestling, that kind of disrespect demands a response. Alright, let's put on our booking caps and think about where this storyline could go. And trust me, there are some incredible possibilities. Paul Heyman doesn't take disrespect lightly. We could see him recruit a new client, someone bigger, stronger, more dangerous than Bron Breakker, specifically to destroy the young superstar who betrayed him. Imagine Heyman aligning with a monster heel who targets Bron week after week. This creates an amazing underdog story for Bron as he has to overcome the obstacles that the wise man puts in his path. What if Bron's decision to go solo backfires initially? What if he struggles without Heyman's guidance, loses some big matches, and has to prove he can succeed on his own? This would create a compelling character journey where Bron has to overcome